and in particular, those engagement strategies. So without much ado, I will introduce our keynote speaker for tonight and our panelists, and then we'll just get right into it. Okay, first, and I'm going to be partial, I'm going to introduce Sherifat Akinwumi first. Hi, Sherifat. Hi,
Hi,
wave to the people.
hi,
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 Omar.
hi, how are
Hi.
you?
I'm
Okay,
well, thank
so
you.
yes, Sherifat is a cybersecurity professional with work experience across diverse industries, including oil and gas, pharmaceuticals, financial, and IT services. She's currently a member of the Board of Advisors, Canadian Women in Cybersecurity at CyberX. Welcome, Sherifat. And
Thank you.
and next, he's no stranger to us. Our good friend Oliver. Oliver Ayan is a passionate information technology security professional. He's passionate about vulnerabilities and threats, and he's worked with several organizations to help monitor that exposure and those threat agents while providing visibility and remediation to breaches. Welcome, Oliver.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here.
And last but certainly not the least, our keynote speaker for tonight, Carlos. Carlos is a seasoned IT risk management and information governance professional with over 24 years experience. He works closely with organizations to effectively face challenges regarding privacy issues and resolve those issues. He also works on cybersecurity, IT risk, and IT governance related issues. And I'm sure that Carlos, hello from Mississauga, hello from Whitby, Carlos.
Hello.
And
Great
I'm sure
seeing you.
you'll give us a brief insight into what you actually do as you go ahead. Please, Carlos, please go ahead. As our keynote speaker, we're itching to hear you tonight. Thank you, Carlos.
No, thank you again, and thanks for the invitation. This is the second chance I have to talk to this community, and I love it. I had the pleasure of being with Osira in a course for the University of Toronto. I think it was like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, right? Yeah, and since then we've been connected, and it's great to have the chance to be here with you today. So as it was said, I have been in the cybersecurity space for quite some time, even from before it was called cybersecurity. It was called information security when I started doing this. I joined TY back in 1996 in Mexico. I was born and raised in Mexico City, so that's why you will get this lovely Latino accent as we are going through the session. I decided to move to Canada in 2012 to come and enjoy the winter, just like you. And I left EY in that time. I didn't have the chance to come to the firm. So I was with another company for a couple of years. Then I went to another company, specifically in the privacy space. And then I went back to Ernst & Young. And I am right now working for Ernst & Young, the Toronto office in cybersecurity, specialized in privacy. And the intention is to talk about what's happening in the cybersecurity workspace. Is that right? So let me share with you a presentation I prepared just to guide the conversation today. Please feel free to come with questions, and thank you, Jacqueline, for that comment. Please feel free to come with questions and comments. You don't need to wait for the session to be over to come with any question or any idea you want to share. So let me just share my screen. If you see me moving my head from one side to the other, it's because I have a couple of different screens here. But let me share the screen now. It seems that I have the screen sharing disabled. Can the host please enable the screen sharing for me? Hello from Nigeria. Wow. Hello. It should be later.
You can try it now.
I'm trying again. Yes, I can. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So, as I said before, I have been in the cybersecurity space for quite some time. Something that was pretty interesting is that when I moved to Canada in 2012, I was working in a slightly different field. I was working on SAP consulting for 3 years, and I was focused on security for SAP only. Then I went back to privacy slash cybersecurity, and then I came back to Ernst & Young in 2018. It was amazing for me to see how cybersecurity and technology in general evolved in these 5 years since I left Mexico to the point I went back to Ernst & Young. And I think it is not new to anyone here that cybersecurity has become a very relevant topic for many organizations. So when we think where we are right now, cyber threats have become a reality. It is not something that anyone is questioning, I guess. There's a very interesting report that is prepared every single year by the World Economic Forum since 16 years ago. And this report is presenting the global risks the humanity is facing. So what is being faced from the health-related sector? What is being faced by the environmental perspective? What is being faced by the business perspective and the technological perspective? And cyber threats have been in this report as one of the top risks faced by humanity since at least 5 years ago. Now, in addition to this study that the World Economic Forum prepares every year, the Global Risks Report, I would encourage you to go for it. It is released in January. So I think the version for 2022 is going to be released shortly. The one that is available right now is the one from 2021, but I think the new one is going to be released shortly. In addition to that one, there's other reports. There's a couple of ones that are prepared by Ernst & Young itself, where we have confirmed that cybersecurity is one of the main concerns in the minds of the CEOs. They are not only concerned about what's happening within the organization, they are also concerned about what's happening at the national level. What is it that the country or the countries where they have operations are doing in order to properly create an ecosystem that is promoting cybersecurity and its effectiveness. We have seen as well through studies that Ernst & Young has done, there's an initiative we have that is called the Global Information Security Survey that takes us out to the market to learn from clients and friends what is it that they are doing in order to face the challenges they have on cybersecurity. And I picked some numbers from this study that I thought would be relevant for you to keep in mind. The first one, if you can see the yellow tile on the lower section, 36% of organizations include cybersecurity measures when they are developing an engagement, where they are developing a project at the planning stage. So there's very few of them, as we can see here, that are inviting cybersecurity professionals early in the game. The majority of the organizations are bringing cybersecurity late in the game. That ends up being very expensive and very ineffective. So what we need to do is to try to change our approach to bring cybersecurity to early stages and to enable this model that is called cybersecurity by design. That implies that we are going to be bringing cybersecurity early enough so that we can have proper controls defined in a system or in a process before the system or the process is going to the production environment. Something we have found as well is that 59% of cybersecurity professionals have limited interactions with business units. As I said before, I had the pleasure of knowing Osita, of meeting Osita for the first time when he was taking a cybersecurity training course I teach for the University of Toronto. I have been teaching this course for at least 6 years. And through this course and in my own experience, I have seen that one of the most significant challenges cybersecurity professionals face is having effective communication skills. So how is it that they are going to be translating their cybersecurity concerns into ideas that are going to be understood by anyone within the organization, but anyone within the business? We have also seen, putting aside a little bit what we saw in this study, that threats are growing. And we have seen attacks that have been significant and unfortunately consistent. I have a couple of events that happened in 2020, one of them impacting CRA in Canada, another one impacting a very important vendor, FireEye, which is a cybersecurity vendor that has put solutions in many organizations around the world. Of course, an attack like that is not impacting only the company, but the clients the company serves. Another case that is much more recent, there's a company called UKG that is in charge of developing many software solutions, many applications. And one of the applications they sell to the market all over the world is called Kronos. I don't know if you have heard of Kronos. Kronos is an application that is used for time management. So for example, if you go to a factory and you work on the factory in the operational side of things, in order to let the company know that you made it to the company, that you will start your working day, you use your finger and you put your finger in a reader and the company knows you are there. And they count the time you're working for the company so that they can process your payroll. Well, that application Kronos became unavailable for many companies around the world because the developer of the solution had its private cloud impacted by a ransomware attack. So something we are seeing right now is that the bad guys, the bad actors are going not only for the companies or the final targets they have in mind, they are going for the supply chain and the vendors that can be working for these companies so that they can impact not only one, but many companies, and not only the vendor, but the many organizations they are serving. In many, many cases, we have seen that cybersecurity is significantly impacted by the lack of support from people. Actions that are made by people or actions that are not made by people because they are not familiarized with policies and procedures, and they are not following what the organizations are saying. This is increasing the level of exposure to cybersecurity threats. And if that was not enough, of course, we have been living for almost a couple of years with COVID-19, which is changing the way we are seeing cybersecurity threats affecting and happening all over the world. So what we want to say with this is that the cybersecurity environment is a complex environment that needs people, that needs hands, that needs brains, that are willing to help resolve this challenge and resolve this equation. The way the hackers, the way the bad actors are trying to go for the companies, for the targets they have, is using different channels, different vectors, different motives. They are taking different vulnerabilities, and that demands people in order to effectively respond to this challenge. Something that I think is important to keep in mind is that cybersecurity has grown in terms of the different positions that are available within this spectrum. The spectrum is very wide. It is not absolutely true that you need to be 100% technically savvy in order to make it within cybersecurity. There's different fields. Of course, if you want to be cybersecurity professional focused on the cloud or focused on the network or be a pen tester or part of a red team or a blue team or a purple team, you need to have solid technical skills in order to deal with that. But if you need to be, or if you are interested to be on the compliance side of things, on the policies and procedures side of things, yes, of course, the technical knowledge is going to be very useful for you, but you will need to develop some other skills and gain some other knowledge in order to be effective there. So what I want to say is that the spectrum on positions available within the cybersecurity space has become very, very wide, and the opportunities are just there for different positions and for different skills. Now, what is it that we are seeing happening right now? We have seen that for companies, digitization is the name of the game. The COVID-19 challenge that we all went through and that we all are going through has accelerated the adoption of new technologies. And this has also accelerated digitization. So that's why we are having new tools, new pieces of software, new pieces of hardware that are making companies work in a different way. And this is increasing the platform or the attack surface that the bad actors can use in order to impact the company. So something we need to keep in mind is that the use of new technologies for digitization or for enabling work from home is always going to be bringing new risks to the organization. And we need to be proactive, and we need to be one step ahead of that in order to identify the risks that are going to be brought to my ecosystem by these new technologies so that we can identify them properly and define the controls that are going to be mitigating them. Something we saw is that the majority of organizations around the world send people to work from home. And from those that send people to work from home, at least 50% have to acquire new technologies in order to enable the work from home environment. Unfortunately, something we saw as well is that 60% of those companies adopting new technology to enable the work from home didn't go through the cybersecurity or privacy assessments to properly verify that those solutions were properly managed from the cybersecurity risk perspective. So we have a lot of technology a significant dependence on the use of information technology, and not in all of the cases, the proper analysis on the risks we are facing and how we are going to be responding to them. More information can be found in the study that I have specified at the bottom of the slide. This is available on the web, but if for whatever reason you want to have a copy of the study, please feel free to let me know, and I will be more than happy to share that information with you. Now, if we think of the Canadian landscape, and we have to, we try to focus this into the Canadian landscape and what is it that we are facing in order to see what is being requested by a cybersecurity professional or from a cybersecurity professional. But this is something that is impacting the entire world. We are going through a point in time where we say that we are living the liquid life. The liquid life is a concept that was brought to the world by a philosopher called Zygmunt Bauman. And Zygmunt Bauman was saying, our life right now is very accelerated and highly impacted. I was looking for another verb, but I couldn't remember that. Highly impacted or highly injected by, influenced, I want to say, by different channels and different media and different ways to be connected to the world. If we are working in our home with our computer, chances are that next to our work computer, we have our personal computer, and chances are that we will have our phone next to us as well. So in addition to having the email from the company and any collaboration tool that we can use at our work, we will have our personal social media, we will have text messages, we will have WhatsApp or any other collaboration tool that will be constantly bombarding us with messages. We are very distracted with many, many things. This characteristic of the fast pace we have in our life with these multiple elements, that are influencing how we are managing our life is what Zygmunt Bauman is calling the liquid life. This large amount of distractors is making us much more vulnerable to suffer a cybersecurity incident, to suffer a cybersecurity issue. Something else we are facing as well is this phenomenon that was called the Great Resignation, that has many of us very tired on what we are doing and how we are doing it. And at some point in time, we make the decision of saying, I am tired of this and I will resign, I will quit my job in order to do something different. So these dynamics has brought to companies a significant challenge because they are constantly seeing people go and having to bring new people, having to train them and increasing the level of risk of exposure because of this liquid life that we are living at the personal and at the corporate level. So something we have seen as well, if we go to analyze a little bit of the numbers of companies that are working on cybersecurity, at least 61% of organizations are understaffed or significantly understaffed in cybersecurity. That means we need people, there's opportunities, and I have seen in the last year how interestingly hot the cybersecurity market is. 55% of organizations have open cybersecurity positions. So again, the opportunities are there. 59% of organizations need 3 to 6 months or even more to identify the right resource they want for cybersecurity. Something important to keep in mind is that there are two main factors that companies are using in order to identify the right candidate. It seems that the most important or the most relevant one is hands-on experience, and the second one is credentials. Something that is pretty interesting to see, and this is coming from a study that is prepared by an organization called ISACA. ISACA is an organization that brings together all around the world people in cybersecurity, privacy, and related fields. It has chapters all across the globe. There's one in Toronto. I am a member of the Toronto chapter, and it is constantly releasing papers and studies and research. This is coming from a study they do every single year that is called the State of Cybersecurity. The most recent version is coming from 2021. The document is divided in two parts. Part one analyzes the job market and how things are going all around the world on that specific space. And part two is analyzing trends and common threats that companies are facing all around the world. So this is coming from there, and it is pretty interesting to see how in that study, ISACA found what we found when we were executing the previous study I mentioned from Ernst & Young, the Global Information Security Survey. And the fact is, the biggest gap on cybersecurity professionals is soft skills. There's a lot of very technical people, highly qualified with many credentials that is not able to have a solid conversation in business terms with their peers. There's many CISOs that are having struggles when they have to explain to the head of human resources, to the head of legal, to the head of finance, the challenges they are facing without using technical jargon. This is something that we need to change. This is something that we need to transform. And this is why I think there's a significant opportunity in the market right now. So what is it that we can do? From the corporate perspective, of course, we have to be open to constantly identify talent and people that is willing to develop a career in cybersecurity. From the individual side, from the personal side, I think it is important to identify what is the path we want to take within cybersecurity? What is it that is attractive for us? What is it that we want to do? And identify frameworks, bodies of knowledge we can use so that we can start studying them and becoming familiar with them and start gaining the knowledge we need in order to start projecting that when we go to an interview and when we talk to someone. As I said before, having hands-on experience is critical. If we don't have the experience coming from job, there's tons of websites, videos, associations that have workshops or materials available that we can use to practice and to play to start gaining this experience. Of course, in addition to that, there's the traditional methods, the traditional channels. And I am talking about universities and schools. It is very impressive to see how the majority of schools right now have some sort of an offer in cybersecurity from the theoretical perspective or the practical perspective. The majority of the universities and colleges in Canada have bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, or simply programs within the schools of continuing studies to prepare people in cybersecurity matters. So the space is there. Don't be shy of asking what is it that you need in order to develop a career in cybersecurity. Don't be shy of networking, approaching people, and trying to explore what is it that you can do in order to be successful on the cybersecurity space. And I hope this content and this material is useful for you and is helping you identify what you can do on the cybersecurity space. I would like to open now, if you're okay with that, the time for questions. And I see one hand already up from Blessing. Blessing, do you want to say something?
Yeah, great session. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Thank you.
Yes, perfect, Carlos. This
Thank you.
is great and rich, in terms of information and insights. So I think the moderator would like to proceed with the other activities in terms of the panel side of things. And after that, there's going to be Q&A. So by then, we will get the audience to ask questions.
That's perfect.
Thank you so very much for this. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Omar, are you there?
Thank you. Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much, Carlos. Thank you. I think, Carlos, I'm going to give you two minutes to catch your breath because you've been talking for a while. In that time, I'm going to turn my attention to Sherifat. And Sherifat, if you've been reading the comments, a lot of people are concerned about newbies and getting into the workspace, okay? So my question to you is, and Carlos has just told us how we need all these soft skills, we need all these hands-on skills, but based on your experience, and since today we're talking about engagement strategies, what would you say to newbies? A lot of companies are shy, just to use that phrase, to take on newbies because they don't know what they know, right? However, I've also seen some companies that are very wide open, arms open, taking on new people to train them in those skills. So aside of the learned skills, the skills that we've taught ourselves, what are the strategies for breaking into the industry?
Thank you, Omar. And hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right, great. And this is the challenge every time, sometimes you find some cybersecurity vacancies and even it's ridiculous, the requirements. So for an entry level or for 2 years work experience requirement, you see they're asking for CISSP or even higher qualifications in cyber. So that has been an issue and it will continue to be. But that being said, are people still making it? Are people getting the opportunities? Yes, they are. So there are different paths, like what Carlos had said. Some people which I've seen in the industry, and using myself as an example, I had my master's degree after my computer science degree. First degree, I had my master's degree in cybersecurity. And I was, after I got back to Nigeria, I was lucky enough to serve a bank. But what I did while at the bank, even though I was thrown in the service management team, I constantly was looking for an opportunity to go into cyber because the fresh out of master's degree. And it got to a point, I went to the first, the manager then, and he said, no, you're an NYC student, you are a woman, and gave me all the excuses in the world and turned me down. But I continued to develop myself. I made sure I was the local member chapter of the ISC2. Can you hear me? My internet is a bit unstable. And all of that, I did that. So continuous development, self-development is key. Networking is key. Reach out to people, because eventually what got me the job and the role in cybersecurity was that when the manager got changed, I went back to the new manager and I got the job in cybersecurity. And from there, I gathered my experience. A lot of companies don't want to take chances, but the job is still there. Make use of your LinkedIn and other channels that you have. Network at events like this, talk about it, seek opportunities to volunteer and to look for roles. Whatever role you may be doing now, are you shadowing the people in the cybersecurity team? Are you taking out time to even see what they're doing and trying to learn? Getting that initial footstep may be difficult, but once you're there, the rest is history, like you said.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your insight. Oliver, I'm going to turn the spotlight on you very quickly. And I'm going to ask you, so Carlos and Sherifat have talked about the skills that we need, the hands-on skills, shadowing. Can you expand a little on in not so broad stroke terms, what those skills would be? For what would you say, like we're talking cybersecurity consulting, we're talking about new players. What would those skills be? I mean, for instance, if I said to you, what would be the top 5 skills? I know the communication skills are there, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, but what would you recommend?
Yeah, Omaili, good one. You mentioned communication skills is very key in the cybersecurity space. But before you talk about the communication skills, there are 2 skills that are very critical if you want to get in and also sustain yourself in the cybersecurity space. Those 2 skills are passion and self-motivation. Passion and self-motivation. The simple truth there is, if you don't have these 2 skills, every other skill cannot stand. You cannot own any other skill. You get to find out that, honestly, in the cybersecurity space, like Carlos mentioned, cybersecurity just started about 5 years or 6 years ago. It's been IT security. So what that means is most of the things happening in cybersecurity space are being done by new entrants into the cybersecurity space. So you find people who are coming from very different backgrounds getting into cybersecurity. Personally, I'm coming from a business background. I didn't even study IT in school. I'm coming from a business background, but I'm journeying through that IT security space right now. So once you have passion and you're able to self-motivate yourself, you'll be able to make progress pursuing your cybersecurity career. After you talk about passion and self-motivation, the next thing you want to look at is the technical skills. It can be overemphasized. When the employees want to hire you, they want to test your ability to deliver on the job. So you need to be able to understand the basic technical skills that you require to deliver on your job requirement. If you don't have those technical skills, it could be challenging for you to get in. One other thing I would also want to share here is sometimes we have that technical skill, but how to sell that skill becomes a problem. Many people can have that skill, but how to sell the skill to a potential employer would be a problem. I spoke with someone, I think that was last week, and he was in an interview and they asked him if he knows anything about forensics. This is somebody who's done ethical hacking course. He's a certified hacker. He's done something related to ethical hacking. But during the interview, he said no. It was a golden opportunity for the person to sell, even if the skill set you have doesn't align very closely. We mentioned it yesterday. If you are at the NIPCA program, the Black Tech program yesterday, most of the job descriptions are copy and paste. It probably wouldn't match 100%. So whatever associated skills or knowledge you have, you can use it to actually build and sell yourself. The other skill you also want to look at is analytical skills. You need to be able to analyze issues, because a lot of things, cybersecurity is quite huge, it's broad. So you need to be able to look at all these disparate components of cybersecurity and make one sense out of it, because sometimes a lot of things go in different places. So you should be able to actually analyze, think logically, look at things critically to be able to make informed decision to make sure the organizations are safe. And lastly, like you mentioned, communication. You have different audience you'll be communicating with, both the technical audience and the non-technical audience. You need to be able to communicate with them in a way they'll be able to understand what you're trying to pass, what you're trying to make meaning of.
Thank you so much. I always say to my team, you guys are technical. If you can't explain it to me like a 4-year-old, then you yourselves don't understand it. And I think that that's a strength that technical people should have, is to be able to communicate with a non-technical audience in a way that they understand. Thank you so much for your insight. I also remember when I first heard about blue teams and red teams. And as I was mulling over which one I preferred, somebody said, oh, there are also purple teams. And I'm like, I want to be purple team. That's a balance of both. I want to be purple team. And then later on, as I learned more, I decided that I wanted to be on the white team. It just sounded like the coolest team after all was said and done, and after I'd heard everything that there was. Carlos, I'm back to you. Thank you again. And I wanted to ask a question about deciding on an area to focus on in cybersecurity. Is it better to focus on an area where the numbers, the reports, the papers are showing that there's more need? Or is it better to focus on something where you know that your strengths are? Like I just mentioned, these 4 different teams, and the reason why I chose the white team is because they were the coolest, not because I have all the skills. I just think the red team is too troublesome. They're looking for what's not there, kind of thing. So how would you advise?
That's a very good question. Thank you. And before responding, I just want to say that what Oliver said is brilliant. I think that to make it on the cybersecurity space, the attitude might be more interesting or more important than the aptitude. I mean, if you have the willingness, if you have the passion, if you're effectively interested, knowledge will come. You will be able to learn whatever you have to learn, but you need to want, and you need to be effectively interested in doing what you are willing to do. Regarding what to choose, I think you need to make some sort of an analysis of what you are good at, what the market is demanding, and where your passion is. And this is something that you have to balance, because I think it will be very, very, very sad if you decide to do something just because the market is demanding it, but it is not your passion. Or if you decide to do something just because you seem to be good at that, but it is not something that the market is requesting and your passion is not there. For example, I have been in the cybersecurity space for close to 25 years, and I have visited like different spaces. I was an auditor at some point in my life. I was a pen tester at some point in my life. I was an information security officer at one point in my life. And I think that my passion is on privacy. after going through different spaces and different fields, I came to the conclusion that privacy is my thing. And I like privacy within cybersecurity because it's a combination of different fields. It has a technical component, it has a social component, a legal component, even a psychological component. And the combination has been like great for me. And in addition to that, it is interestingly something that the market is demanding right now. So I think that it is important to make an analysis of where the market is going, where your passion is, and what the market is demanding. Something we do at this course we offer at the University of Toronto in one of the last sessions is precisely to come to our students and share with them what we think they need to do in order to identify the certification that might be a good fit for them. And I think that among the multiple things we say on that session, these three that I have shared with you are perhaps the most relevant. Am I responding to the question, Amayali?
Absolutely, and you did it brilliantly too. I love what you said, attitude more than aptitude.
Yeah.
And that attitude will now help you analyze what you're good at, what your passion is, and what the market is demanding, and balance those things out. And that's incredible. I think that our audience needs to hear that. Not only what's in demand, but what you're passionate about. And that makes me swivel chair to what Oliver said about what you're selling.
Yeah.
You can only sell so much of what the market demands. Rather, it's easier to sell what you're passionate about. It's easier to sell what you're good at. And if you can market it, and if you can continue to drill down to find out what it is, how those three balance, I think then you have a unique selling proposition, which is what everyone wants to have going into a job search, going into an interview. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Sharifa, do you have anything to add at this point? And don't say no.
Yeah, anyways, if I must, what I'll say is that the passion thing is very critical. I mean, that is what will keep you going. There's so many areas to cybersecurity, like the speaker said, and your passion is what will drive you to want to get to the root of that thing. And if you're very passionate about trying to keep the bad guys out, then you will continue to drive at it. And that's what drives people like that do threat hunting, threat modeling.
Yes.
You know, they really want to fix the issue, they want to get it. So that passion is key, and that's the little driver. So thanks, Oliver and Carlos, for talking about that.
Okay, I'm not going to let you off the hook just yet. I want to ask you, what is one thing that you knew, if you knew earlier in your career, would have helped you to fast track your career growth? Now, this is back on the back of what Carlos said. He's been in different roles, and that's how he's evolved into his current position, his current passion. But as a young person, as a new player in cybersecurity, what would you have done to fast track?
Okay, great. So, well, being young, I can't say no, but I'm not a new player in cybersecurity. At some point, I was the head of information security at InterSwitch in Nigeria. I had my master's in information security back in 2009 when it was still called information security, like Carlos said earlier. But, you know, one thing I would have said, I wish I had added to my skills will be that I did a lot more into programming and coding, because as we can see now, the trend is we're having a lot of applications, a lot of things are going digital, mobile, and having more knowledge in that area would have, you know, still really improved my cybersecurity profession, or as a specialist in cybersecurity. So that would be one area. But yeah, I've done several other things, like Carlos also mentioned. Presently, I'm into GRC, governance, risk, and compliance. Before that, I was head of information security and InterSwitch, like I said, and that encompassed a lot of things, from network security to vulnerability management to the policy side, leading the team. So I had to oversee that. I had technical knowledge to understand what, you know, from the network point of view, firewalls and things like that. needed to understand coding than the developers if they were pushing out applications. How do we pick out the backdoors and the vulnerabilities for them to fix it, and combined with the compliance bits? But now I'm more, tied and focused into GRC, and that's what I'm focused on now.
Okay. For the sake of our audience, could you tell us a little more about GRC? So you scared me when you talked about programming and coding. Even though I have a first degree in computer science, it's something I've never really truly enjoyed. I've gotten by, I've gotten my grades, I've done the work required, but I've never really truly enjoyed it. And we're talking about passion, we're talking about what you're good at, and I'm shy because I don't think I'm good at programming. I'm definitely not passionate about it. And if it's going to give me a leg up, then maybe I should pay attention to it. But tell us a little more about your GRC role and what that means in terms of what you do on a day-to-day basis, and how this, for me, how this programming and coding would have helped you in any way.
Okay, so I'll answer the second question first. When I said programming, if you continue to look at things now, almost everything is developed online. Applications are being churned out. Banks use internet banking, mobile applications, so many of them. And that is the reason why I said, I wish I took my programming a little bit more than just passing the grades like you did, because I did the same. I just, let's get done with it. Let's pass and move on. It wasn't really my thing. But I think if I had put in a little bit more effort, and even though my passion was cybersecurity, and I say it every time I speak to people, when I was growing up, I thought I was going to be a policewoman back home. And I thought, I wanted to be in the force. I wanted to catch the bad guy. That was my passion. When I graduated from the university with my computer science degree, and I looked at it, okay, this is my passion, security. This is my degree. What can I combine together to give me that? And that's why I went for information security. So if I only mentioned about software development because I see the power of what they're doing. It's software development, I believe, is going to continue to be in need. Maybe, I don't know which one in cyber or software development, but I strongly believe software development is a good area. So someone with a skill in software development combined with security will be doing very, very well in this industry. And which is why I said, maybe that's an area of regret for me. If I could turn back the hands of time, I'll go learn a bit of programming and add that to what I currently do. But it doesn't mean I'm going to give up cyber. I love cyber. It's what is my passion, is my life. Now to GRC, governance, risk, and compliance. Basically encompasses those three areas. And how is information security governance? How is it done in your organization? What are the policies, procedures? What do you set aside? What sets the tone for how people should do this information security program? From a risk point of view, everything, an organization, our security, all organizations invariably, your security program really, really depends on your risk. How much risk are you facing? The risk for bank A or an organization A is different from organization B. Using two different organizations as example, a bank and maybe, let me say Uber, for instance. A bank will be very, very particular about not altering their data. Imagine the impact of all our bank accounts having an additional zero behind it. So with my $100 and someone goes there to alter the bank balances, I have $1,000. No bank will want that because they're going to run into trouble. But also imagine a company like Uber, and most of their income they earn by their availability, by the ability for people to go online and access the application. That's where they make their money from. So from a CIA point of view, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, for a bank is integrity. Integrity is key to them. They don't want you to mess up with their data or with their bank balances of customers. For an Amazon, Uber, and the like, it's availability. They have to be available for them to make that money. So risk from different point of view for organization really depends on your business. Where are we making the money from? What is our risk? What will cause us issues the most? And that's where people focus on. And compliance, basically, which is the C, it depends on your business as well. So for a credit card company, a company that accepts credit card, you want to look at compliance programs like PCI. If you are doing other, kind of business, you want to look at other compliance initiatives that you need to comply, ISO 27001. You want to comply with NIST and things like that.
Okay.
So that's the compliance being bit, ensuring that all the compliance requirements are made by the organization. So that's GRC in a very broad level and in a nutshell.
Osita and the team, I'm thinking that we need to bring this wonderful woman back to talk about GRC. GRC is like a whole shebang, a whole bouquet of flowers that we need to unpack. Thank you so much for your insight. It's much appreciated.
Sorry, I want to say something. You're absolutely right on saying that. I think this topic deserves an entire session, but something that you can see on Sharifat is something that we all need to have, and that's believing in ourselves. That's my story. When I migrated from Mexico to Canada, you know that in Mexico we speak Spanish, and I came to Canada and we had to speak English. I thought that I was able to speak a decent English. When I came to Canada, I realized that it was completely different to speak English every single day for every single thing than speaking it from time to time from your Spanish speaking country. So I was very shy. I minimized myself. I was not able to believe in what I was able to do, even with the background I had. So it took me some time, but then I came to the conclusion that if we were brave enough to leave our countries, to come to another country and to look for something else, that talks about our heart and that talks about our passion. So when Sharifat is sharing the path she went through, that's something that you can see. She believes in herself, and that's the same you can see in Oliver. So that's my message for you. Believe in yourselves. If you want to go for a career in cybersecurity, as a message I saw, how is it that I have been working for years in cybersecurity can jump into consulting? Go for it. Believing in yourself and increasing your network is something that is going to be very effective for finding the opportunity that you are trying to have. Sorry for the interruption, but I wanted to say.
No. It's a good segue into my question for you. So we're talking about consulting, or we're talking about consulting in cybersecurity. And what's your take on the legal element for cybersecurity consulting? So you mentioned in your presentation that there's also, as part of your work, you do legal, you do technical, you do and Sharifat also mentioned governance and compliance, and those already speaking about lawyers and policemen and all of that. So what's your take on that legal angle to cybersecurity consulting, and how do techies fit in? We don't necessarily have that legal component.
Yeah, I think it's there. I think it's getting increased in terms of complexity. And I think that depending on where we want to develop our career, we need to identify in those jurisdictions the rules you have to follow and the rules the organization you are assisting as an external consultant, as an employee, needs to play with in order to properly deliver what they have to deliver. For example, in privacy, we know there's many regulations. Specifically within the cybersecurity space, there are some countries, there are some sectors, there are some segments that have started to define rules that we have to follow. So I think that depending on the business that the company we are working for or we are working with is running, depending on the information they are processing, depending on the jurisdictions where they operate, we need to have our eyes open to identify the regulations we have to comply with. And beyond just having our eyes open, again, going back to what I was sharing at the beginning, we need to be able to partner with other executives and with other professionals within the organization to effectively identify these elements. And what I am thinking of is to properly create a partnership with the legal department and work with them to understand what are the legal obligations the company has to respond to, so that we can identify what are the ones that have a cybersecurity impact, so that we can effectively respond to that. Am I responding to that question?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Please continue. If you haven't
Thank
finished.
you. No,
Yeah.
no, that's it. I think, for example, something that we need to keep in mind is that we don't need to have the cybersecurity wording of regulation to know that that regulation may be impacting cybersecurity. For example, anti-money laundering regulations are somehow touching cybersecurity. Sarbanes-Oxley and similar regulations that are going for the definition of a strong internal control system are significantly impacting cybersecurity. So I think that by understanding the compliance obligations the company needs to respond to, we will be able to identify how cybersecurity can be embedded into that. And just to add to what Sherifat is going to be sharing on GRC in that session you are planning, that is precisely linked to GRC. You need to identify what are the compliance obligations in order to define the proper governance elements you will need to reduce the risks you need in order to avoid any challenges for not properly responding to the regulations you have to be complying with.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thought, you know, linking other non-cybersecurity or they're not typical cybersecurity regulations or compliance guidelines, but you have to take a look at them to make sure that they don't impact your cybersecurity, your cybersecurity posture. That they don't impact negatively the posture of the organization, how the organization wants to position itself, what the organization is, the pillar in the CIA pillars, the pillar that the organization is. For instance, Sherifa talked about integrity for the banks, that those compliance issues are not negatively impacting your posture. Thank you. That's a very interesting thought. I hadn't quite looked at it that way. Thank you. My next question is for you, Oliver. Oliver, what would you say is different? So we've talked about several industries now, but the one that we haven't really touched on is what we know as government. So government is huge, and government plays in different spaces. Could you tell us a little more about your experience or your knowledge of cybersecurity consulting in that space?
Yeah, you're right. You know, government is quite huge. Inside what you call government, you'll have different departments and agencies and stuff. And sometimes they all have independence on how, you know, they implement their cybersecurity programs. I've done a bit of consulting for the government, and for you to be a consultant for the government, that actually means you have something the government needs from you. You know, they usually go for, you know, what we call specialists, you know, they have some specialist kind of knowledge for whatever they want to resolve and stuff. For you in Canada here, for you to get into such positions, obviously one primary thing you need is the security clearance, you know, which is like a clearance that allows you to get into work, because you will be exposed to very sensitive and confidential data. You know, when I did work for the government, I was surprised the kind of information I could see. I probably wouldn't want to share about that one. There was a day, let me just give you an instance of how this happens. There was a day I was working for a company, is a telco. I wouldn't say where it is, but while I was working for the telco, something just struck me. I said, okay, let me just search out for the phone number of my wife. And I was surprised I could pull it. I could see everything my wife was doing. I was surprised. So there is a lot of risk associated with it. I wouldn't want to divulge more. So because of that, it is very important for organizations or governments to implement controls to prevent such disclosure of such sensitive data. So in Canada here, you have, think about 4 different categories of clearance. You have the one called reliability clearance. You have the security clearance 1, security clearance 2, security clearance 3, and is mapped to the NATO clearance, which we call the secret clearance, the confidential clearance, and also the top secret clearance. Oftentimes, it is very difficult for you to get this clearance as an individual. If you want to get the clearance, you probably need to be a contractor for the government. So you probably will be working with one of the contracting companies which have gone through some, vetting to allow, you work for the government and stuff. But one thing I've got to find out is there are so many big players doing this consulting, very big players. So sometimes for someone like us who are still starting up, it might be difficult for you to, no matter how good you are with your skill, it might be difficult for you to compete with those big players, or there are strategies people use, to achieve that.
What are those strategies?
Yeah, that's what I want to talk right now. I've seen a company who went into a retainership with this big player, because the big player already has like a big access door to the government. All you need to be, you can't compete with the big player most of the time, no matter how good your skill is. So you can actually go into some kind of retainership or partnership because you have something the big player wants, but you don't have access to where the big player has access to. So because that your skill is invaluable, it will always be sorted out for. You can go into relationships and partnerships with the big players and have some sort of retainership. In fact, I saw a company who had a retainership that even when the job is coming and it's not coming, there is monthly paycheck coming to him. So they're able to retain that service so that whatever happens, they are quick to come to you and say, hey, we have a project, and you go implement the project for them. So that is one strategy we can look at strongly to say, how can I start, like Carlos has said, like Sharifa has said, how can I start building these relationships with these big players so that when the need arises, I'll be the first one they will knock at their door and say, hey, we need your services, and you go deliver, and it's going to be a win-win situation for, for the both parties. So that's one thing we can consider, getting into such relationships as a way to find ourselves into those big government projects and contracts.
That's definitely an interesting angle to it. It's that as a small company or as a consortium of individuals that we can offer our services, our niche services to bigger organizations and leverage the infrastructure that they already have in place. Excellent. Thank you very much for that insight. It's got me thinking. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've heard from our speakers, but there are some questions. People have questions. Somebody won't be happy if this question is not answered tonight about cybersecurity consulting. You want to know what to do. You want to know, there's a particular question that's been buzzing in your head since we started talking. If you can just show by raising your hand, and we will call on you to ask your question. Please keep your question very, very to the point. And I will give the panelists 30 seconds to 1 minute to answer your question so that we can get in as many questions as possible. Cyber Panther, I see your hand up. Please unmute yourself and let's have your question.
Hi everyone. My name is Mustafa. So my question is, someone with a lot of experience in cybersecurity, how do you branch out? I think the other panelist was trying to explain that, Oliver was trying to explain that, but how do you branch out fully into consulting? People do like company to company kind of consulting and so many other types like that. So I was just wondering maybe if you could shed more light to that route. Thank you.
Please go ahead, Oliver. And,
okay, good. Yeah, so when you say you have years of experience in cybersecurity, that's very fantastic. You have one huge advantage in the sense that you can wear so many boots. You're very employable. You can fit into different situations in the cybersecurity space. Just like Carlos showed us that slide, if it comes to different kind of things, you can do those. But many of the times, those are not the kind of people the government needs. The government needs specialists. Because if they are looking for generalists, they are all out there, they are very quick to find. So what you are selling becomes what matters. I was speaking to someone a couple of days ago, and a conversation came up. It was about a product. Honestly, the product is out there, is selling, but very few people have the skill. If I mention the product, probably many of us will not know it. But it's in a particular niche. Very few persons have the skill. The company itself that sells the product don't even know how to push the knowledge to people so that people will be able to start picking up these things and put it in there. So if you have a specialized knowledge, getting into consulting will be a piece of cake for you. But if you have a generalist sort of knowledge in cybersecurity, you can fit in very different places, but that specialist knowledge to allow you. So if you're able to start considering out of all the skills you have, which one of them looks niche? Which one of them looks like there isn't so much people in that space? If you're able to identify it and start journeying towards that, trajectory, you'll find out that you'll be able to start consolidating on that area of strength. And before long, you will be considered someone who can actually consult in that space and offer specialist knowledge and skill sets for the government. And you'll see those who cannot employ you directly will look for a way to actually attach themselves to you to use you to actually deliver government projects.
Thank you. Carlos, do you want to quickly add to that?
Yeah, of course. I think that when you're a consultant, you're like a doctor for enterprises. That's a concept that a friend of mine gave me a long time ago. And that's true. I mean, you go to a company and the company shares with you the concerns they have and the problems they have and the pains they have. And you are expected to help them resolve those issues and resolve those challenges. So as Oliver was saying, if you have those skills, if you have those years of experience that you have accumulated, you may have many answers for many problems that the company may be experiencing. If you have the willingness and if you have the passion of helping others, maybe that's something that will be open for you. My advice for you, Cyber Panther, is go for it. I mean, try to go for the consulting company that you think is the right fit for you in order to start looking for an opportunity. Or go for conversations, go for people to explore the possibility of doing something. And I will be more than happy to be one of those that you can be having these conversations with so that we can explore and see if there's an opportunity for you that we can offer.
Awesome. Talk about networking. Carlos, just on top of that, there's a question in the chat asking about how somebody who's coming from a totally different industry has completed cybersecurity bootcamp. Should they be looking at internship opportunities, or should they focus on getting an entry-level position?
You know what? And I think I saw another comment like this on the chat. It is not that we need to go for an intern position every single time we need to make a switch in our careers. I think that the experience we already have is giving value to what we deliver. We recently hired a lady with a lot of experience in the healthcare sector, zero experience in cybersecurity, but very passionate about data analytics in healthcare. She has become a wonderful privacy professional. I remember a long time ago hiring an administrator. He was with the human resources department and he wanted to experience cybersecurity. He became a great identity and access management professional. So what I want to say is that the talent you have, the things you have done, the skills you already have will be somehow useful for cybersecurity. As Oliver was saying before, and Sharifat was saying the same, we have many options in the spectrum within cybersecurity. So among the many possibilities we have, we can take advantage of these things we know to see how we can make these things we know fit on what the market is needing, as we were explaining earlier. So for that person that has been working for so many years in a different sector and that wants to go for an opportunity in the cybersecurity space with this program that was taken, again, feel free to go for the opportunity, and I will be more than happy to have a conversation to further explore how we can try to make that a reality, because I think it is completely doable. I have seen many, many people taking that path, doing something that is now taking them to cybersecurity and being very, very, very successful.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you so much. And I'm just going to jump quickly for sake of time. Ayo Boyejoy, you have had your hand up for a while. If you could please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity. Sorry, can you hear me?
Very clearly. Thank you.
Oh, okay, great. So my question is towards Oliver, if he can really shed some light about the Canadian security clearance process. I have a few experience with the American system, but I'm not really sure how it worked in Canada. So do you have to be sponsored, or can you apply for it? That's one thing. Another is what is the minimum visa requirement for it? So do you have to be a Canadian citizen, or being a PR holder is sufficient for you to have even the lowest level of security clearance?
Yeah, so interestingly, in Canada, you need sponsorship. You require sponsorship. If you want to have one quick way is to see how to get engaged by an organization that is consulting for the government. The chief security officer of that company will be the one who would actually sponsor your application for a secret clearance, no matter how low it is. You know, the reliability status, you also require it. So you just need to find a way. If you go out there in the internet, they have a list of organizations who are consulting for both the provincial and the federal government in Canada. Try to see how you can find a way towards working for them, and hope that probably your skill set is something one of the government agencies will require. Before they engage you, they will have to sponsor you to have one. I think they will require about 5 years background check on you for the reliability status background clearance, rather. So they require 5 years, background check for you. But for the other 3 clearances, 1, 2, and 3, they require over 10 years of background check for you.
Okay, sorry, quick question. Can I quickly chip in? Because I have some experience in that area. Can I go ahead?
Yes, please go ahead. 30 seconds, please.
Okay, so for that security clearance, just as you said, that is how it works. But if you've not spent up to 5 years in Canada and part of your 5-year experience is domiciled in Nigeria, it was absolutely impossible for me to get, because I don't know what was wrong with the Nigerian end. The sponsoring organization tried through organizations in Canada, but they said they couldn't get any response from Nigeria, even though I gave them the copy of my fingerprint and everything, which I used when I was processing to come into Canada. It seems as if the Nigerians, they are Alagba or somewhere, they don't have records, or I don't know, they just didn't get anything from the Nigerian end. So I think for that security clearance, we will need to find a means to tidy up the Nigerian end. I don't think the records are kept, and they cannot be traced. They cannot be given to Canada when Canada requests for it.
Yeah, I'm so sorry you couldn't get it. Probably something didn't go quite right. You don't require 5 years. You don't have to be 5 years in Canada here. You just need to have 5 years of background check wherever you are. So even if you're in Canada, if you're in Nigeria, US, Iraq, wherever, they just need to be able to do a 5 years historical background check to ensure that you don't have any ties to criminality. I was able to get mine, from Nigeria, that allowed me to actually get my own background check. So probably offline, you can reach out to me, then we can talk about it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Oliver.
Okay, then.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, the other part of the question. Hello, sorry. Yeah, the other part of the question is your visa status. So do you have to be a citizen, or even a PR holder can get one? Sorry.
You need to be a legal resident, yeah.
Yeah, I think the 5-year requirement overrides that. If your 5-year requirement is outside of Canada, then you don't have to have been in Canada, right, for 5 years, and so you're either PR or I don't know what else you can be, and then towards the 5 years you become a citizen. Thank you very much for your input. Balaji, you're up next. You have 30 seconds to ask your question. Our time is fast spent.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. My question is about those that said if you finish school like newbies or someone crossing over from a totally different field, what level of cybersecurity should they look at? Like, do they consider like the entry level? For example, if you are going into maybe IT support or the technical aspect, most of them start from things like service desk, go to system admin, and so on and so forth. But for cybersecurity, what should they actually look for to actually kickstart their career in the field? Thank you.
I can take a shot at that.
Yes, I was going to give that
okay.
to you. And I'm going to add something else as well. So somebody in the chat is talking about delving into cybersecurity as a BA. I think you saw that question. How many years of experience? What if somebody likes processes and analyzing and all of that? If you could just bundle all of that up in your answer in 1 minute. Thank you, Sherifat.
Yes, I was going to take answer that because I saw another question. Someone was asking if you're coming from a non-technical background into cyber. So in terms of timeline, we can't really say this is the length of timeline, but what I usually advise people and a lot of people who I mentor is that if you're coming from a non-computer, non-cyber background, to be a well-grounded cybersecurity professional, you need to understand how computer works, to be honest. And I say that. So a lot of people come fresh, maybe from other fields, finance, and they take one certification or the other, and they just believe they want to go into it. Yes, that may work. But it's to get to a time where you need to understand how computers work. And the part I usually advise for people is start from the foundations of computer. And if you are already in that part, just understand where you are. And I say, start from foundation of computer, understand system administration. That is what are servers? How do they even work? The aspect of networking. What is a database? All of these things that put together computing, understand that. And then I introduced a bit of cloud into it. And why I say cloud is because cloud is the future. Or there's usually most organizations are moving to cloud. So it's only appropriate for you to learn that as well. And once you do that, start from foundations of security. Take some certifications, for instance, ComputerSec Plus. Take that. That will give you a general overview into cybersecurity. And it will do two things for you. The first one is what I mentioned, give you a general overview of cybersecurity and also help you towards your career journey in getting that job in which you want. Because computer is, I won't say it's not an easy exam per se, but it's an exam that someone who is coming new into cybersecurity can study very well with minimal experience and pass. And once you have that certification, you can add it to your FEDA, add it to your resume, and begin to also chase roles in cyber. So just look at for the gentleman who asked the question, look at where you are on this path. Try to pick out. So if you've had the computer knowledge and you've done all of those basic, ignore the foundations. You can jump to system administration and networking, add cloud into it, go into the foundations of cybersecurity and take it from there. For someone who is fresh into, wasn't in a computer role, then you have to start from basic. And there are many materials online. It's not everything you have to go, pay a whole lot of money for. I know some other people also go through another route through school and they go do a diploma. And in that diploma course, they generally take you through everything. They start from computer science. I have a mentee in Edmonton, and that's what she did. And then they put her on internship with a company for some time to do a cybersecurity role. And when she's done with that, she's going to look for cybersecurity roles and try to apply. So this is what I usually advise to people, and I hope that will work. But when you have the opportunity to go for the interview, because I think I saw one other question that in the chat that said, how do you kill your imposter syndrome and things like that? You do not have to fit the job requirements 100% before you apply for it. Make sure you look at the job, you believe in yourself that, yes, I can do this job. I have the relevant certification or qualification. I feel I can do it, apply for it. And if the moment you get an invite for an interview, the person making that decision had looked at your CV and has found you capable, and that's why you're invited. So kill that imposter syndrome, go for it with your best and know that you pull through and you'll be able to do it.
Yeah, so on both fronts, put your best foot forward. If you're a newbie, put your best foot forward, learn everything that there is to learn anything that you don't know. And if you're looking for a new role, also learn everything that there is to know. Prepare for the interview. Don't take anything for granted. That would be the two things I would add. I have 4 more hands up, and I'm going to have to call it close from there. So nobody else should put their hands up. Wumi, 30 seconds, please, if you want to ask your question.
Thank you, Mayeli. Thank you, everyone. I think Sharifa answered most of the questions I wanted to ask as well. I have a background in networking, and but that was some years back. But later I went into banking, and I tried to pivot back into networking in the banking space, but it was very challenging, just like Sharifat's story. But at the end of the day, now I'm here in Canada, and I'm trying to see how I can pivot back into IT. I'm still in the banking space, but I'm more passionate about cybersecurity. So now I just started a master's degree in cybersecurity. But that's going to be 2 years. But down the line, while still doing the program, what would you advise, to be able to maybe start looking for a role and qualify for a role in cybersecurity, given that I have, background in networking? And I just must add that, I was previously enrolled in another university before I changed into this cybersecurity program, and I was enrolled in computer network Masters of Engineering program. So strong background in networking, but no cybersecurity, core experience like that. So how can I really, pivot? And you mentioned something about cloud, learning more about cloud. So what certification would you recommend? I don't want to be jumping from one certification to another. I know that people do a lot of certifications, but which one would you recommend that kind of covers everything? Thank you.
Okay. So Sharifat, Wumi's question is loaded. It's going to take a while to unpack it, but if you could just give us the power in 30 seconds. Thank you.
Okay, in 30 seconds, I'm not sure I heard right what you're studying for your master's degree. Is it computer networking as well?
Yeah, I was doing computer networking, networks engineering before, but I just switched to cybersecurity now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So from what I hear from you, it sounds like your passion and where you're strong at is in networking, right? So, and there's network security as well. We need network security engineers as part of cyber. And to be a very good network security person, you need to understand the basis of network. You can't be someone that cannot understand the route. How does the packet travel from here to here? If you don't understand that, how can you secure it? So I think you are even closer to your goal than most other people. And you already kind of started to pave your path. You need to just look into some certifications in that area, that will help you. And the essence of certification, like I think Carlos said, is one of the decisions in hiring now is what certifications people have got. And that's why a lot of people still do certifications. So I recommend doing one in that area to add to it. And then your question on cloud, the big cloud stakeholders, we have Azure. There's an Azure fundamental course, and I think from Microsoft that is even available for free. That will give you an overview of that. There's also the AWS course. There's some, courses from Google as well on cloud. So just Google those up and then see the ones you can do. I don't want to be too specific, but
And
all
Wumi,
of
I
those
think
things.
you're in the right echo space. We put out a lot of information about these different things, and there are different classes that you can attend that make you job ready in a matter of weeks. And I think that's one of your concerns. You don't want to be floating around. So I think you can ask that question to the group. There are many people who are willing to help you and guide you as to what is best to do. Took that, you're up next. You've been very patient. Please ask your question in 30 seconds.
Thank you.
We can't hear you. Are you on mute? Yes. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me now, please?
Yes, 30 seconds. Yes.
All right. So my question is about my physical, my specific circumstance. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And thanks to all of you for all this extremely useful information. So I have, my background is in operations. I don't have networking. I don't have cyber experience. I do have experience in risk. And so last year I did a short course. I did a GRC internship. But I tried applying to jobs around. And in fact, I was ready to write the CISA, right? Very advanced in the studying. But I started applying for some jobs and I never got any interview. And I was wondering, and then I got to understand that because I don't have any networking experience, that's what some people were saying. It's very difficult to get into this field. So I sort of left the project midway for those two reasons. I was wondering if there's any advice for me. Also, I saw that Carlos mentioned something about operational technology / IoT security. So it's an area I'm very interested in. I've done data analysis for operational data, right? And being involved in projects around that. But I'm wondering, that area seems quite deep. I'm wondering, okay, if I spend all the time and effort required to, to go into all this, do people really, is there really, are the opportunities really there? Because my background is not in networking, right? Which is like a core thing here. So that is what has told me, basically effort versus benefit. If one wants to go.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I have to cut in. We're running out of time. I think that there's a lot to unpack, from your resume writing to your interview skills to positioning yourself for a position. I think that you have the elements that are required, or maybe there's a bit more work to be done around the packaging. I don't know, Oliver, if you want to add to that in 30 seconds.
Yeah, you're so right, Omali. So to that, you're doing well. Your ability to pivot, from your operations and start chasing up something, quite, new. So I think you're doing well. What I'll suggest is you look at where your passion is. That's one thing with passion. You don't get burnt out easily if you're passionate about something. That passion will keep you going. Like Omaili said, pick up the knowledge, own the skill. The job will definitely come. So be rest assured it's going to come. Don't have that doubt in you. Like Carlos said, don't ever feel that you're not qualified. That syndrome that you're doubting yourself. I'm not sure. Don't have it. You can actually engage me, after this session, for the sake of other people. I can actually have some good time with you, so I can talk about this further.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Oliver. We are timing out. Osita, do we have 2 more minutes?
Okay, you've got 2 more.
2 more minutes.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Okay. Oluwagbenga, can you ask your question in 10 seconds?
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. I'm just going to ask my question real quick.
Your 10 seconds are up.
I recently got my Security Plus last month. I also worked on my Azure last year. But the difficulty I have right now is when I apply for jobs, they are all requesting for CISSP, and it's like a benchmark. Is it advisable for me to start with my CISSP certification right now? Because I've not gotten my foot into any cyber security role. I work as an IT support, but I want to transition fully into cybersecurity. So is it advisable for me to?
Oluwagbenga, 10 seconds are up.
Thank you.
10 seconds to answer that. Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah. So I'll put it at maybe. And using my own personal experience for that, CISSP is not an easy exam, one, and you also require experience before you can even get that designation. So I'll say maybe. If you've got the experience, maybe from your previous work, and you attempt the exam. I failed that exam the first time. It's a tough exam. Let me give it. It's not similar to Computer Sec Plus that you did. So I'll say maybe, right?
Yeah.
I will recommend some more time, study a bit more, really go down into the material end to end, pali to pali, like they said, and do a lot of past questions.
Yeah. And I believe in the industry as well that there are comparable certifications. So if they ask for CISSP and you have something that is close and valid that covers the CISSP scope, that can also be presented. And at the point at which you're engaging the recruiter, you highlight that. Okay.
Right, thank you so
much. You're welcome. Mosu, 10 seconds to ask your question.
All right. This is just a quick one, not a question, but like a comment to just back Sherifa up and to like every other person, probably newbie, people that are just trying to enter into the cybersecurity space. Because I had my own fair share of trying to enter into the space, the difficulty and everything, just like routing for everyone, just like every other facilitator here have said, passion is very key, put in a lot of hard work. And I know no matter how it sounds like it's very difficult, a lot of people are saying they are trying to get jobs and they are not getting. You will definitely get it one day. It's just a comment to pass by. I'm very, very serious. I am a living witness of that. It wasn't easy, but then at least I'm somewhere now and I'm grateful to God. I just look back and be like, thank God I never give up. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mosun. Omar, are you there? We can't hear you. Omar, can you hear me? Guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. So thank you so very much, Omayeri. I mean, what an excellent moderation. Really appreciate you for this excellent moderation. And also thanks so very much to our panelists. Our keynote speaker, Carlos, any day, anytime, you're already a member of this ecosystem, man. We really appreciate you for everything. Really appreciate you. Sherifa, thank you so very much for everything. Thanks for the insights. Thanks for the great knowledge you've shared with us tonight. Oliver, what can I say to you, man? Thank you so very much, guy. Thank you. Really appreciate it. This has really been an incredible session. Yesterday we had a similar session for those that want to transition into cybersecurity. We are looking at TriTech. TriTech has to do the vision about TriTech is to really help as many that are trying to transition into tech, not cybersecurity, but tech as a whole. And we kind of did a survey. Based on that, we picked 11 in-demand areas from cybersecurity, DevOps, business analysis, project management, product, cloud, software engineering. And we're going to be covering this from yesterday, January 12th, all the way to February 12th. That is a loaded program. Yesterday, we had over 400 people online yesterday alone when we started the cybersecurity. And on Saturday, it's going to be cloud computing. So for those here as well that you are looking forward to, how do I even get into cloud? Which of the areas in cloud do I go into? make sure you attend Saturday's session. Our faculty is a great guy. He was head of IT of a bank in Nigeria, and now in Canada, he's heading and spearheading cloud adoption strategies and DevOps for one of the banks here in Canada as well. Tons of experience are going to be shared on Saturday. So make sure you attend that as well. So I just want to add, just a few things before the vote of thanks. You and I know you are here to extend the vote of thanks to our panelists. Now, for me, based on what I've been said here, there are things that I think, that really struck me. Community, networking, building relationships, very, very key, very, very key. If you are just transitioning or you are just within the entry level, make sure you join communities such as Black Tech, such as NIPCA, and so many others out there. Build community, network, build relationship. Very, very important. Sometimes there could be opportunities like Oliver here. Oliver shared tons of opportunities within our community, right? So when you build connections and you are part of communities like this, there could be opportunities that you will just right away, once they show up, you grab it. Not every job is advertised on the job boards. Some of the job is by who you know and the connections you know. Very important, guys. Another thing I just want to talk about as well is training, resources. Our faculty, our panelists also mentioned that as well. Very, very important. If you are just about to move into cybersecurity, community is key, and also think about training. At Black Tech, last year we started a cybersecurity school, where today we have 4 faculties. One of the faculty, Chinedu was one that presented yesterday, a security engineer with Amazon. We also have Tosin. These are all CISSP certified guys. They work together with CompTIA, and today we have built out a very solid program for the Black community. Currently, we have 42 students in that particular program. And guess what? Last month in December, RBC reached out to me and said, Osita, we are building out a new team and we need to hire 5 entry-level cybersecurity folks. Can you recommend some? That was what I got from RBC. And guess what? I pushed that communication to the team. And out of the 42 students that just finished our cybersecurity program, 16 applied for it. 8 were shortlisted for interview. 5 were hired. 5 were hired last month, and they are resuming job this January. That is incredible. So what I'm talking about in terms of relationship, a lot can be accomplished. So even apart from RBC, we have Career Edge organization. Google Career Edge is an organization that have over 100 partners in Canada, and they are into paid internships. And through the internships, most of the students get jobs to become permanent full-time employees. We are also in partnership with them as well. So there are a lot of things we are doing as an ecosystem to help our people get a foot in the door into the cybersecurity domain, cybersecurity ecosystem through what? The trainings we offer and strategic partnerships. Very, very important. And finally, from me, obviously, guys, for you to do this, Oliver said it, and Carlos mentioned that, and Sherifat, passion is key. You must have that passion. That passion is what will continue to drive you. You have a community, you've got the passion, and make sure you have coconut head. Yesterday, we talked so much about that. Coconut head, you must be very stubborn about your goal. If you're not stubborn about it, then that is where confusion comes in. There are a lot of things that will come your way. You completely abandon the idea and the focus. But when there is coconut in this head, you will keep going until you accomplish your dream. Thank you so very much, everyone. Really appreciate you guys. Omar, I think your mic is okay now. You want to say something and then hand over to you and for vote of thanks.
Thank you. Thank you to all our speakers. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you to all our speakers. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Sherifat. Thank you, Oliver. The insight that you brought tonight is incredible. I wish we could stay longer to hear everything that you have to pour into us, but thank you for your time. Carlos, just before I hand over to you, and what are your concluding remarks, like your words on Marble? As a keynote speaker this evening, what do you want us to remember?
Believe in yourself.
Awesome.
That's very, very important. We all can make it, and succeeding in cybersecurity is just a matter of passion. So I could say that.
Thank you. That's excellent. It couldn't be more any simpler than that, but it couldn't be any more exquisite than that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
UN, I don't see you, but I believe you're here. If you could please unmute yourself. Thank you. UN is our executive director at NIPCA Immigration Center. I'm still getting used to the new names. Thank you, UN. If you would please give us your vote of thanks and your closing remarks. Thank you.
Well, before I go to giving the vote of thanks, I will just ride on a quick summary. Osita has stolen most of my points with his quick rendition at the end, but that's all fine and good. Just a word of marble to everyone who has been on the call. It has been a power-packed session, wisdom nuggets flying all around. We have had the pleasure and grace of entertaining top tech professionals within the cybersecurity sphere. So there has been quite a lot for us within the session to digest. From me to you, I'm taking a cue from the professionals being as lay as possible to convey the ideas of cybersecurity to you. Your intentionality, your attitude, think of your career in cybersecurity or indeed any other sphere as a vehicle. Your intentionality, your attitude becomes the key to access that vehicle. You don't have this, you can't even gain access to the vehicle. Your passion, like they rightly said, is the fuel to ignite the engine of that vehicle and indeed move it. So if you don't have the right attitude, the intentionality to challenge yourself, well, you don't even get into the vehicle in the first place. And let us even assume you get into the vehicle with the attitude and intentionality. If you don't have the passion to fuel it, because that passion becomes the necessary energy to overcome the challenges that will be thrown at you, well, your vehicle doesn't move anywhere. So you need these three things to move your career forward. And it has all been well put out by all the professionals on the call. Secondly, I learned something at my office today. Not today, a couple of days ago. There was a challenge within the group, and previous sessions I've attended, everybody seemed to always run away from the hard work. So my boss threw a, wisdom nugget to the group. And I quote him word for word: you need to aspire to do the things that you cannot do to grow. Growth does not come from a place of comfort. That is what he was trying to tell us. So if indeed you have goals, you set goals, realistic goals with realistic timelines, then you need to have that aspiration. You need to know. We've all gathered here today for a session themed pivoting to cybersecurity. Pivoting is change. Change is never easy. So the challenge is to each and every one of us. Osita has rightly given a great rendition of all the available resources that are available to each and every one of us here, from Career Edge to Black Tech to even NIPCA Immigrant Center. It is now left for you to find the key to that vehicle, which is your career. We can only tar the road to ensure that we act as catalysts, but the majority of the journey is entirely up to anyone who takes up arms to challenge himself to become better in whichever sphere it is you actually want to pursue. On that note, I want to say very special thank you to Oliver, to Carlos, and to Sherifat. We couldn't have asked for a better rendition. This was supposed to be one of those sessions that would be really techy. Carlos demystified everything with his very lay approach to explaining things. Within this chat and in other groups that I belong to, there are threads of conversations, applauding you for being as lay as possible for new entrants to actually understand. Special thanks to Sherifat and Oliver too as well for also coming in with your own flavor, expanding the mindsets. People don't understand that within cybersecurity, there's a huge ecosystem on its own. I think within or between the three of you, you did a great job in actually trying to set those sectors apart. We are all very grateful for your professionalism at work here today. So from us to you, on behalf of the organization, I want to say thank you. And I do hope, like Omayeli said, that we actually see you back here for demystified sessions on the particular aspects of cybersecurity. P.S. For many of you who are asking how you pivot into cybersecurity from a non-technical background. I would also add that you follow up with someone like Omaeli. She's an exemplary personification of that. She came from what I call a vanilla background, and today she's a security-focused project manager. So that, for me, to you, is also just one little expo. But other than that, thank you. And thank you all too who have attended and stayed on the call.
Yeah, thank you so much, Yuan. Thank you. Really appreciate you for those vote of thanks. Guys, we need to take picture here. Can we share our videos? There's an adage that says that you don't see the big masquerade all the time. Whenever you see the big masquerade, you got to take the opportunity right away. Carlos, Sherifat, and Oliver, these are the big masquerades, right? So let's take some pictures with these men, please. Let's share our videos. Even if you are eating, you are taking dinner, please, no problem. Just share a video. We want to see your faces, please. And our paparazzi, Remy, you are here. Please, let's grab the screenshot, okay? So that we can just keep it somewhere, properly decorated and just hang it in our wall. When NIPCA eventually gets a physical office, UN. That's one of the key things that needs to happen this year. We need a physical office somewhere in where is it going to be the location?
It will be in Toronto. So I'm thinking about it.
Okay, nice.
And next in Calgary.
Admit